Hello everyone, this is Tegan Riley with my week 7 discussion for justice. For one of the principles that stood out to me from the video and like what would be the most beneficial for me, I said that grounding myself theologically before politically, because I think it kind of reduces like the effect of like the political divides, because you're able to find that common ground before you start like diving into like differences and like the differences of opinion. And then you're also making sure that you're grounding yourself in like truth and what God has to say before what like humanity is saying and like what the broken world is trying to tell you to believe. So I think that like having that as your foundation before building off of it to like engage with the world would be the most beneficial for me, because it will help me like remember that we are all God's children. So like if someone doesn't have like the same opinion as me, that doesn't mean that I have to like dislike them. It just means that I have to engage in their discussion or like engage with their opinions and kind of like debate with like a kind heart and like get through that. And then for the prompt, I chose the one about the second one that says the lecture critiques common approaches to racial justice. It includes colorblindness, and then highlight how, despite good intentions, they fall short of addressing inequality. I mean, colorblindness, when you're just like ignoring differences, then you're kind of like disregarding all of the things that people go through and like the fact that there are structural like inequalities. So you're kind of just like erasing things that doesn't need to be erased. Multiculturalism, I mean, it sounds great because you're like celebrating like diversity and stuff like that, but I feel like to an extent you're like really hammering on divides, so then you're further dividing people rather than like uniting while celebrating things. And then cultural relativism also falls short because you can't just say that like a culture is fine even though like just because like you can't just change like morals to judge things based off of like what they believe is right, because otherwise then you have things like you can get away with a lot of bad things when you're like, well, my culture says this, so it has to be like fine, and you can't judge it because it's not like what you believe in or like what the culture that you have. So like that just kind of is not great. I think that colorblindness would be the one that has been the most prevalent in my community. I'm from a fairly small town, so I think policy or having policies and stuff like that that are trying to just like erase it, especially with like, I mean, DEI things. When you're just like, oh, policies shouldn't be based on this, so why do we need to have that? Then you're kind of ignoring the fact that it's structurally like embedded in our system, and that you're like, by erasing that, you're not doing anyone any favor, like helping really at all anyway. And then I'd say Christians can move beyond these limitations to acknowledge and confront justice by grounding yourself in like what the Bible is saying. I mean, you can celebrate all of these kind of have it right to an extent. They're just like take it too far. So it's like bringing us together as one person or as one, like we're the body of Christ, while still recognizing that like we have individual differences, I think is like important. But just remembering that like we're all God's children and we're all created for that. So like a lot of that stuff isn't as like, it's not like a defining factor. It's just like a part of who you are. So I would say that is my answer to this discussion post.